type of learning of Torah. And that's going to come, it's a big topic in the part we're going to read today. Let's pick up where we left off last time. We spoke about Rav Kook thinking that part of the Geulah would be the renewal of Nibu'ah, would be prophecy again. And Rav Kook spoke about prophecy as, we had the uncensored version of Rav Kook and the censored version. The uncensored version of Rav Kook, he says, and this is before the page that you have, I'm just reviewing, "V'akshiv yeshma mitoch ma'amakei nishmati, mitoch רגשי לבבי, kol Hashem koreh." And I heard from the depths of my heart, and I listened to it, and I heard the voice of Hashem calling out to me, and I feared a tremendous fear. Is this how I'm going to sink low to become Navi Sheker? To say that Hashem sent me and He didn't really appear to me? And then I heard the voice of my soul crying out, this is the residual nebu'ah that is still growing, like residual seeds that fall in the seventh year. And the disciples of the Nevi'im are awakening. Ruach HaNebu'ah holech v'shat ba'aretz. The spirit of Nebu'ah is going and wandering or spreading out in the world. Mevakesh lo miflat, doresh lo giborim melei izuz v'kodesh. It's finding, the spirit of Nebu'ah is spreading around, this is Rabbi Kook writing, spreading around and looking for a place that it can land, a place that it can find its refuge. Now when he describes his prophecy, or the act of prophecy, it says that Nebu'ah, prophecy and divine inspiration come from within, from the inner part of man. Mipnimiyuto shel Adam. And from that inner part, it spreads out to the whole world. And when you say prophecy, right, is that the way we think of prophecy? How do we, when you say that you're the prophet, do we think of it coming from within or from without? Yeah. From without, right? Hashem speaks to the person. And so Rav Kook was very daring in this statement. Very daring that he said it's really coming from within the person. The person is radiating, if you will, the prophecy outward from within him. Traditionally, we think of prophecy coming from without. And also, in the New Age approach, revelation, something like that, it's also for things coming from without, a kind of miraculous experience of revelation, and in the young people in Israel that are really in this new type of Hasidut, and a nouveau kind of Hasidut, that's also coming from without. It's kind of a miraculous experience. Rav Kook viewed it in a different way. He viewed it as something coming from within. Now, one can still have. Well, how do we understand this? When Rav Kook says the idea of prophecy coming from within, does that make any sense to anyone? Can anyone relate to that idea of prophecy coming from within the person?
Well, don't you have to cleanse yourself in order to merit prophecy?
Okay, so first, that cleansing oneself.
So it has to be from within.
Spiritually, ethically, more holy. So that's like a precursor, a precondition to prophecy. But prophecy coming from within is something beyond that. That's not just the, getting ready for prophecy, not just preparation, but actually having a prophecy or having prophecy coming from within the person. Gina,
are you trying to say they just suddenly feel like they want to say something, but from within, but it's not from Hashem? I mean, I guess I don't understand what you mean by just from within.
Okay, well, Rav Kook said it, so it's. I don't think we have. Well, one can think psychologically. Okay, that from within, it's not from the psyche of the person. He's attaining a certain state of.
Someone would say it's intuition, like it's a kind of healthy intuition that you have, and they'd say that these are the voices of Hashem within you, your intuition.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I would just add to that one thing, that it's also when Hashem gives each one of us our neshama, so within that, right, there's already a kind of spark of Hashem. And the more we can connect with our neshamot, the more we can be aware of what our neshamot are telling us. And that comes with a lot of preparation, a lot of ethical preparation, spiritual preparation. More like, putting our ego in its proper place and being connected to Hashem through doing mitzvot and doing chesed. The more we put become aware of our neshama really as it really is, that's Hashem gave us that. And our neshama is, if you will, primed to react and to bring out things in the world.
Is that like allegorical? Like, let's say Yaakov when he fought the angel, so some say it was in his mind and he's going to go wrestle, meaning Esav again. So in his mind he's trying to figure it out, and that was a Nebuah when he fought with the angel. Something like that?
Yes, the Rambam says that's like he was dreaming that.
Yeah, so that's like maybe a Nebuah like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's coming from within him. It's not something that's given to him. It's a Nebuah in the sense of also predicting the future kind of situation that he's going to be in. And we all, by the way, to take David's idea, our dreams, a lot of times our dreams, they say dreaming is 1/60th of Nevuah. That's the Gemara says that. And a lot of times we use our subconscious, unconscious mind uses dreams to sort of work through problems that we're having. And sometimes it's even a way of, we work through situations, or we deal with situations in our dreams that we're either afraid of in life or anxiety.
We get an understanding of situations through
and we get an understanding. And in dreams, sometimes we also think of solutions to problems that we have in life. And sometimes we had, in that state of being that's right after you wake up or before you're out of bed, that situation we still sort of remember the edges of your dreams and the dream before the dream completely fades away, right? And then you start to process that dream, right, that you had. You remember the vague pieces and the feeling that you have about that dream. So often there's a lot of insight at that moment in time. Let's say if you wake up if you get out of bed too soon, you might miss that time. So sometimes especially in a dream that's very impactful, and you felt it was a very moving dream, take that time and be in that middle state where you're somewhat conscious of yourself and of your dream, and you're able to translate some of what you had in the dream, some of the knowledge of that dream into yourself. But it's coming from, psychologists would say that's coming from within. Even not only psychologists, but I think medicine says that our dreams are one of the things that our dreams do. It prunes away memories that we don't need. Right? It's kind of clearing the mind to record new memories, and or bringing up things that are deeply found that our conscious mind doesn't really allow always to get out, and therefore it brings things from within us.
We also have there's the normal.
The what?
There's normal,
Mm-hmm.
normal, and then there's the it could be a drug-induced, changes your psyche, so the psychedelic drugs, open up your mind to other experiences, and then there's psychosis also. There's schizophrenia, where you hear the voice of, you hear voices, or you think you're somebody else.
Right. Son of Sam,
I mean, there's
many.
There's a rainbow of experiences.
Right.
Steve Jobs was a proponent of altered states. He did LSD. He thought that was opening up his creative mind and impulses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He recommended it highly.
Really? Highly. Very nice.
But other than dreams,
Nice.
the subconscious is always working and analyzing things, and your subconscious is always at work. You wake up with a solution. When you went to sleep, you didn't have it. You woke up, you have a solution. But the thing is, the subconscious is always working. Whether that's dreaming or not, I'm not sure.
There's a posek halacha. He's very into posek halacha. I don't remember his name. But he wrote a book called Shalot U'Tshuvot Min HaShamayim. And this is about 300-400 years ago. Shalot U'Tshuvot Min HaShamayim. What would he do? He would have a certain question posed to him, and he would go to sleep on it. And he would wake up and he would write down the answer. In the middle of the night or the morning, he would write down the answer. And his understanding was that he was being given these tshuvot from heaven as a kind of prophecy. Now it's
maybe that's why we got the saying "sleep on it" from him, because it's like an American quote now.
But really true.
It could
It's
be,
really
yeah.
true. Yeah, so sleep on it.
Yeah.
Having that, that there's the fact that this even makes its way into the halachic world. In capital cases, the Sanhedrin are not allowed to try the person and sentence him on the same day. Let's say they finish the trial, all the procedure of the trial, right? And now the sentencing stage is coming, right? The sentencing, the verdict.
Right.
Can't have the verdict and the trial on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, halakha. It's in the Rambam. You have to take it over the night, think about it, and maybe you'll find a way of acquitting. Sleep on it. Michal wanted to.
Just as you were saying this, just to bring it back to Rav Shagar, I remember this little anecdote that they keep on saying Yeshivat Siach about Rav Shagar, is they gave like an amazing class, and a person who was from out of the yeshiva who heard it came over and told him, "I want you to be my Rebbe." And he told him, "You can be your own Rebbe." And the guy said, like, "What do you mean? I want someone to come and, I want someone to be my Rebbe." He goes, "You have it in you." It's like when he was trying to make people not dependent on him and trying to arouse their own inner voices and make them feel confident that they have the answers also and they have the wisdoms too to come to, solutions or to, thoughts about progression of their lives and things like that. And I think Rav Kook, who was in a time of when nationalism was all rising and people were coming, he even saw the non-religious people as people who had somewhat like a nevuah from within them that was telling them to come, to build, to do against all odds. Like he saw the people coming to Israel as somewhat a continuation or residual Nevi'im who had a vision and wanted to come make it happen.
Okay, thanks for adding that. I thought you were going to add something else, but that's important. I wanted just to go on what Sonia said, sleep on it. We recently, Michal and I recently attended a series of classes by a principal of a school in Kiryat Yvon where I work. I really hate when people. Oh, tell Joey where the class is. Sorry, name. 450.
450 by Monmouth Road.
So he would every night. He was a principal of the school of this anthroposophic Waldorf school. Not going to go into that right now, but it's an alternative kind of education. And he was also the homeroom teacher of the class, the mechanech of the classes, responsible for the development of these children. Every night he would go to sleep thinking about all his students. Every night. And very often he would wake up in the morning with different ways of looking at the students. So it's an idea. We in our tradition we have Kriyat Shema L'Mitah. And Kriyat Shema L'Mitah we also go through the day's events. We have Vidui, things that people we might have wronged. We give forgiveness. And it also allows us to think about the things that we're going through, we went through in that day, and maybe come up with certain solutions. So,
just one point, not to take away from some of these nice ideas, but traditionally what we think about Nevuah is not really in the same category as some of these other things that are cute. And excuse me for using that word because I'm not trying to downplay nice feelings and coming closer to God, but at some point you could just make everything as inspiration, nevuah. It's all like pretty much one gobbledygook combined kind of thing. But I don't know if it's really fair from it to use that word in the same vein as some of these other things, because they're not necessarily connected. Yeah, they're nice things, but nevuah, from the word that we've been using for the last couple thousand years, is a different type of thing than, even though the Gemara says what it says. We know that 160 thing, but it's not what we're talking about as far as sleep on it. Those are all good things, but it's not in the same. Doesn't have the same weight. So it's not the same class as what nevuah is.
Right. Clearly, and that's an important point. I'm not saying that our dreams and the things that we come up with are nevuah. Right? It's far from it, in that very rarely do we have something that we're told that we feel that this is we're on this world mission of Am Yisrael mission, kind of broad kind of mission, where a Navi was God's spokesman, and as God's spokesman, he had the words what to say. But in trying to get some type of handle on what Rav Kook is meaning when he says Chidush Nevuah, and what they did in his groups to try to get Nevuah, right? This is the closest I can come to understanding it. So it's really trying to get some kind of handle on what these people, Rav Kook and his students, were trying to get at. Far from, let's say, becoming another Yeshayahu or even a Tzfanya. Okay.
Rabbi Labaton used to say that, with the Musar movement and ridding yourself of your ego, maybe you could get what he called a flesh, and that's all he said you could get. Maybe, some people merit that, but full-fledged nevuah, I can't even begin to explain that.
But nevuah, not only is God speaking to us, because that's not nevuah. Nevuah is further than that. Nevuah is God speaking to you with a mission for Am Yisrael. Right? Look, God speaks to all of us. Through our life situation, through the events that happen to us, and through trying to react to those events in the highest way possible. So God is speaking to all the time to everyone. Right? It's not. We shouldn't confuse nevuah with God giving us messages.
But nevuah has to be transmission to the people in general,
to Am Yisrael.
Not to keep it to yourself.
That's
that
right.
doesn't work.
That's right.
And therefore, the big problem I see is you may get inspiration, but then how do you transmit it, and how you recognize that the whole 9 yards.
Right. So that's a major difference as well. When we start getting insights about when you come up with something that's really the right thing to do, and you're sure of it, and it works, and it carries out, and you help people, or you do something that moves your family forward, or moves even your business forward, or your learning forward, or your chesed forward, in a way that it seems almost sometimes to be out of your normal range of possibility. So that's not nevuah. It could be that you had an insight from Hashem about how to do that, but it's not nevuah. Nevuah is much broader in what's to be done for Am Yisrael. So yes, it's important to draw the distinction. But I don't think that we could say that things, as far as that's concerned, even great artists and great musicians, great composers, that they have a type of ruach hakodesh, divine inspiration. They're given these things from Hashem into the world. It doesn't make them nevi'im. So I want to distinguish between those the way you did.
Does it ever say that after the prophets that doesn't say there will be no more prophecy? Doesn't it say somewhere in the Gemara?
It says Shagar v'Charia Malachi Sof Nevuah. Right, is the end of Nevuah. That sentence can be understood in this was the canon of prophetic books are closed. The canon of prophetic books are closed with them. Just like we say, Rav Ami v'Rav Ashi Sof Ravina v'Rav Ashi Sof Hora'ah. But the Gemara is closed, so to speak. The canon, the corpus of work known as the Talmud, is closed by Ravina v'Rav Ashi. It doesn't mean that there wasn't learning that went on afterwards, because that learning was not Talmud. The Nivuot that happened after Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi are not included in the corpus of the book of Nevi'im. And there are Nivuot that happened after Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, but they're not included. Okay, I don't want to go into that completely.
No, okay.
Sefer Daniel seems to be a book like that. That's and definitely some of the books of the Sefarim and Chitzonim, the books that were not included in the Tanakh, the Jewish spiritual books that were not included in the Tanakh, are definitely having that type of nivuah kind of sense to them. But they're not. That's it. Haggai Zechariah is off the end of the canon. Okay, let's look into the handouts that we have. This is the end of one article. We'll do that today, and the beginning of a second article, which we'll do next time.
White out.
H4B.
Okay. In the handout, page 176, there's some more copies over here for people who need. Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, I want to start from reading from the section that begins with HaChazon. HaChazon is the vision. המתקפה נגד צעירי העידן החדש היהודי, החסידות החדשה, הנור החבקוקי, הן מצד הרב עמיטל והן מכיוונים אחרים, מאנשי ישיבת מרכז הרב ובנותיה ומאנשי ישיבות הקו, אנשי הר המור, מוטעת או למצער מוגזמת בעוצמתה. Now, another reason I wanted to read this together with you is going to give you some of the sense of the spiritual vitality that's going on in Israel within the Dati Leumi community. We tend to think of Dati Leumi, religious national party or religious Zionists, as monolithic, as having only one strand. What this is, for people who are not in Israel or visit occasionally, not living there, these are things that are going on. It's a very vibrant spiritual life, and a lot of different strands within the Dati Leumi community. So this is another reason why I wanted to read this. Now, what you have now, this Hasidut HaChadasha, this new Hasidut, this and use the word over here, Habakkuk. With if you see the word Habakkuk has these quotation marks in the middle, it means it's Rashi Tzivot, it's an acronym for Chabad, Breslev, and Kuk. It's a kind of amalgam of these Hasidic strands, Chabad, Breslev, and Rav Kuk, who puts the Zionistic aspect to it, but as does Chabad and Breslev. They each have their own thing, so it's a new kind of synthesis that is existing, and this is a new, very, very spiritually vibrant group that really is on the edge of a new age kind of Judaism, still very committed to Halacha, but also looking for more spirituality and more mystical kind of Jewish experience. Primarily, it's amongst younger, let's say, younger people, the teens, 20s, and here you have the more staid, traditional Lithuanian, but religious Zionists are against them. So here you have a kind of a replay of the famous Hasidut and Mitnagdim argument that went on in the 18th century. We have those who were the students of Baal Shem Tov that brought a tremendous revitalization of Judaism, but those who went against that and said, no, it's only about learning, and if you're not intellectual, then you can't be part of the connection to Hashem, where the Baal Shem Tov said, no, it's about doing mitzvot, it's about praying, that you can be part of connected to Hashem in many different ways, and that even when this dispute carried on through many generations, you're seeing it resurface over here within the Dati Leumi community, within the modern religious Zionist community, but not, of course, not in its very, very violent way that it happened hundreds of years ago, but still a kind of looking down, looking askance at this new spirituality. What's going on over here? What are they doing? Dancing while you're praying? What are they doing? Singing and clapping while you're praying? It doesn't seem to feel right to them. This is too individualistic, too not the way we do things.
Another thing that brought it up is that the children of the old settlers, the religious Zionists who settled like Yehuda and Shimon, they felt like their parents became very bulgani. How do you say that?
Bourgeois.
Okay. Is that how you say it in English? And they looked down upon their parents for like living in, like, for becoming very boundaried and into their settlements and just starting to live the good life.
Selling out their ideals.
What?
Selling out
Their ideals. And they feel like they're rekindling their parents' spirituality, spiritual ideals that totally went by the wayside, and their ideology of settling the land and busting out of the regular settlements and just doing more than what their parents did, like not selling out.
So this is what's fueling this movement, and there's a little bit of a generational thing as well between the more staid and tried and true traditional way, and this new way, this new vital way of spirituality that's in the new Hasidut.
It's only in Israel, this thing isn't going on, though. I think it goes on in America too, like whatever, this group, or more in Israel, the way you're making it sound.
I don't think it goes on in America within the Dati Leumi community. It's not so strong. I don't know if it's going on. It's definitely not going on in our community.
No, I know, but I'm saying like the Breslov community wouldn't be similar to this. We have Breslov in Brooklyn. I know people in there. I don't know what you want to say it is, but I know they have.
I know they're Karlovac Minyanim, and there's Breslov.
There's a little touch of it.
Yes, there is. I mean, Breslov's been around in our community for a long time.
So it's not just a matter of singing and dancing while you pray and that kind of spirituality.
No, of
they have men dance troops. They have, they're more exposed to the arts, where all that was really relegated to the non-religious world in Israel. The men and women are very much into like arts, painting, like plastic arts, dancing. You have separate men, women, but people are out there and incorporating Hashem into those things.
Right.
It's not something separate. It's something very fused together with the outside world. Like
bringing in also maybe some Eastern stuff as well. You have religious men group doing yoga, right? And these are men who pray 3 times a day, but they have this yoga thing, which is part of their service of Hashem, right? So does it happen in America? I don't know. I don't think it's happening in America. And definitely, you don't have this friction. So Rav Shagar says this is the critique of them is exaggerated, it's mistaken or exaggerated. Of course, everyone, כל אחד רשאי כמובן לטפח ולפתח את הגישה שלו, אבל לפנינו תופעה אותנטית ומיוחדת במינה, ציבור עם מסת נפש עמוקה ואמיתית שלא ניתן לבסלו כליל. Of course, every one of these yeshivot can speak about, they can have develop their own ideas, and they can be against other ideas.
And they're very conservative yeshivot.
Very conservative, very traditional, tried and true things. But they shouldn't discount the new vitality, the spiritual vitality that's coming. These are authentic movements. They are expressing deep wishes, deep hopes, deep aspirations for connection with Hashem that are really authentic, that are coming from within a desire to live a life that's infused with Hashem's word and Hashem's actions, and therefore, and even though one might have certain types of critique, as every organization or every group might have some critique. אי אפשר להאשים את הצעירים האלה שהם לא מוכנים לעבוד, שהם מכסים רק השירה ורוח הקודש הבאות מאליהם, שאין להם מעמד של תורה, ועוד להוסיף גדולתם באשמת אינדיבידואליזם קיצוני וכדומה. One can't say about them that they're not willing to work, or that they're just infused with this egotistical individualism. They just look out for their own spiritual, they want to get inspired.
Or they want the easy way out.
Or they want just, no, I'm not going to work it, I'm just kidding, because that's not what's happening. מגמות אלו צמחו מתוך לב ליבה של ציונות דתית. It came from within the religious Zionist movement, and it comes as speaking about really deep needs that are within Am Yisrael. And this deep need is for revitalization. Of course, it has this, like as every new thing or anything has its problems, and it has certain elements that have to be weeded out or purified, and that's our job. And what Shagar is writing as educators to mold and define and give a direction in this way, so that to remove these aspects of it, so that you'll have at the end a real pure new spirituality that's fully committed to halakha and to learning Torah in all of its ways. Okay. I want to bring it over to our community a little bit. Spiritual awakening in our community. Has it happened? Is it happening? Does it happen? I mean, we are observers of our community. We're not, you're not in Israel. What's going on in our community as far as, is there, you say there's like a spiritual awakening, a renaissance in our community, or are things the same way they were as they were 30 years ago, 40 years ago? I don't want to take a moment to think about that for a while before coming to me. We have about 10 seconds to think. Okay, the question: has there or is there a spiritual awakening in our community? Has the community changed religiously? What do you say? Anyone wants to chime in on that point? Eli?
Our society here is more and more secular, and the community is going along with that larger U.S. or Western trend. So it's definitely less spiritual. That's the United States, and the community has followed suit in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. So you said the community has gotten less spiritual,
much less
religious,
much spiritual.
Which community first? We have 20 different communities here.
That's a mouthful.
What do you mean by that?
You have your Shayetzion people, you have 1,000 people a night over there. So you are seeing spirituals and people going to shul every day and going to classes and getting involved. And then you have your people who are working, who are not going to class every day, and it's all different levels, all different kind of. So some places you see it, some places you don't.
Does learning, when you're learning, like there's definitely more learning, but does that mean, I don't know, just is learning mean more spiritual? Like what does that mean?
Okay,
I'm
so
not
let's
sure.
raise that question. What does more spiritual mean?
Right.
Let's raise that. Can learning be one way that we see that going on?
I think spiritual means you see God's hand in everything you do, and I'm not sure if people do that, or they may mouth it.
Not everything.
But you really got to believe that God's hands are directing you.
Okay.
Well, we've had the
Shelley?
Ashkenaz tendencies where we're following some of the Ashkenaz ways, believing that it is the right way.
Okay.
Does that make them more spiritual?
I don't want to judge anyone else, but okay, we're seeing definitely. I mean, is the community the same religiously, spiritually as it was 30, 40 years ago? Harry?
Let my wife go first.
Well, I can't talk to everybody in I'm a newcomer, but I'm interested in a generation that I see. You know, I think that there's still it's two things, and it goes in both directions. You either have between parents and children, you either in every family. I think there's a huge range within every family, pretty much. But you have a group of young people who are looking for something different than what their parents are practicing or whatever. So some of them are going to less, some of them are going to more, some of them are going to more intellectual, some of them are going to less intellectual, more writing. I mean, but I think there's always a reaction, you know, to...
Okay. Okay, thank you. Harry?
Going back 40 years or 50 years, I think there's a major growth in spirituality, whether it be physical or, you used to come to shul in Sukkot, there was one person standing there with one leaven at the road, handing it to people as they walked in. Now you walk into the shul, it's rare to see somebody that doesn't have a leaven at the road. And people are going and they're involved with those kind of things. That's on the one side. On the other side, I know my son always calls them the jet setters or whatever. People who are just very secular, very, I'm sure some go and they make sure that they're praying, whatever, but the bulk of them are really just looking to be part of a larger society. But overall, if you look at the number of classes, the number of minyanim, I used to walk over to Bnei Shaddai Tzion. Somebody used to say, well, is that right around the corner from me? I said, actually, I passed 11 Sephardic shuls in order to get there. The choices is just incredible. So, I see a tremendous growth in the last.
That's more like a growth in learning. Does that mean that was my question? Nobody really answered it. Sometimes when you learn a lot, does that make you more spiritual? I don't know. To me, sometimes, I see the very intellectual and the very book learning and learning. I think that you veer off from the spiritual because you're I don't know, it's just when you're doing that, I don't know, to me spiritual is more like touchy-feely, and the very learned and doing is more like rote maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I'm going to touch on the learning. I'm going to touch on other things that are brought up. There's also an idea of what does spiritual mean?
How do you measure it?
Yeah,
it doesn't really have real benchmarks that you can set your hat on.
Okay, so
it's an intensely personal experience, really. I don't think it's a community experience.
So it's hard to know whether we're getting more spiritual or not. We can only see external things, and who knows what's going on deep inside a person. Okay, the external.
On the right here.
Yes. David.
Physically to the right.
Yes.
He's to my left, don't worry.
I think there are different challenges to being spiritual today in the community than there were, 50 plus years ago. So I can only relate from personal experience as I look at my father and my grandfathers. When you don't have a lot, and when your spiritual life, your context is quite narrow in terms of all the things that you might look at, the texts you may know, the thinking that you may be exposed to, when you know one way of life and everybody seems to be kind of in one direction, and life is pretty simple, not only in terms of physical and material things, but also in terms of things that you're exposed to intellectually. I think it makes it somewhat easy to be spiritual because you don't know many other things. I consider my grandfather one of the most spiritual people I know. Would he ever be dancing or clapping? No, but on the other hand, I don't think he'd ever take issue with someone clapping or dancing or otherwise. In other words, he'd understand that, and being thoughtful enough or broad enough in understanding, he would appreciate.
Let's say we're doing it in his minyan, right? Which
if you were doing it fast enough, you might be okay with it. And then, for something to bring it down to people currently, to someone had mentioned being, exposed to all Ashkenazi thought and ways of life. That has complicated matters. The fact that we have so much material shifa, let's say, with all the blessings
Abundance.
that we've had.
So much abundance.
Right. That makes it more difficult. There's a lot more noise between us and the spirituality these days. However, I think people do strive for that spirituality because they find they see other people that have it. Let's say I look at my grandfather. He has this, the distance between him and spirituality is so narrow. And okay, granted, I've traveled more places, learned more things, whatever it is that has kind of clouded all that, but use all of that now to only enhance the path towards spirituality. In other words, it's not, so someone said it's very hard to measure. Yes, I think it's very hard to measure at a community level, personal level, but even two people to compare the two, I think it's very difficult because we live in different times and different ages, and the context for obtaining that spirituality has made me very different for two different people.
Okay. Mark, thank you.
I think in the last 30 years, when we've seen the wealth of the community get, really exponential, I think there was a backlash, like in the 80s, I would say, that a lot of people went back to fundamentalism, back to the roots, because they saw that the excesses were almost empty, and they needed to search more within a spiritual realm. I think that's where we saw a lot of, rubber band.
Okay, so Morris is pointing out that there has been a new movement in the community in, let's say, the 70s, late 70s,
reaction,
80s.
I think, from the excesses.
Without, okay, Morris is saying it's a reaction, but there is this a more Haredi movement in the community. Undoubtedly, whether that reflects, whether it's more spiritual, not more spiritual, definitely more religiously observant than the people who wanted to exclude themselves and move themselves, and I'm not without being judgmental, but it's a reality that our community has more people learning, also more percentages learning than ever before. The world has more people learning Torah today than at ever any time in history. The exponential growth of people doing Daf Yomi, for example, which is the daily learning of a page of Gemara. It's grown in tremendous amount of numbers over the years. Every 7 years, it grows by 3 or 4 times in the world and in our community as well. What is spirituality and how can it be measured? Of course, what's your name?
Karen.
Karen?
Karen.
Morris's wife.
Karen. Okay. Okay. So, of course, we can never know anything that goes on internally, and it's how do we know whether a person is a loving husband, loving wife? How do we know our actions, if done often enough and authentically enough, and we can sense that authenticity? Then we do have a little bit of a window into the internal workings of a person. If I see a person getting up every morning at 5 o'clock and learning and praying or sacrificing a lot of time to be involved in community work or chesed work, and he's doing it so committedly with so much self-sacrifice, that something is driving this person internally. We don't know always unless we speak to the person, even then. But there's something going on internally in that person, and if it's something that connected with doing mitzvot, doing chesed, learning, praying, we would tend to say this: the person is seeking a strong connection to Hashem, even though we don't really know. Yes.
But then there's people who you see them doing it, but they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for so everyone else could see,
right,
to draw attention to themselves. So even if you see that person in shul every day at 5 a.m., they're doing it so you see them, not for themselves. But then there's those people that walk around saying, I did so much chesed today, and I went to shul at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's not if you're doing that, it's for yourself, not so everyone knows you did it.
That's true.
So
Yeah,
there's
and also,
that fine
it's not
line.
all of the, not everyone that goes to 5 o'clock that's that way, and probably most are not, because not so many people are up at 5 o'clock. And whoever's up till either half closed. But it's there is, and that's why when we work on ourselves and we dealing with our egos as well is part of what spirituality is about. And we say how much of what we're doing is about our egos and about appearances and about being accepted in some social, spiritual group. But generally, if I had to answer the question, is learning necessarily more spiritual? Learning Torah more spiritual? It depends on the motivation. It depends on the motivation. I want you to depends on the motivation. The person learning. Just a minute. I want to save the best. The best for last. Is learning more spiritual? Well, it depends what the motivation of a person is. Is he learning to understand Torah better? Torah being Hashem's word to man. If he's learning to get closer to Hashem, so then yes. If he's learning as an intellectual exercise or intellectual stimulation, if he likes the puzzle of it, I would say no. Joe.
No, tell me how you
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Keep going, you go on. No, I think you're talking about religiosity and growth and expand, but I feel that our parents had a much deeper faith and were much closer to God than we were. I mean, they had a real deep innate faith, I think, that we can't match.
Even people that drove on Shabbat and went to work, they could be simple faith, but I know people that work, maybe still do, but they drove, they did everything, but they were religious people, more so than today, which they think they're smarter. I mean, I'm talking about the younger generation, 15, 20, 25-year-old kids. They're very educated, very bright, some of these kids, I think they are anyway, and the grandparents who didn't have etrog, lulav, sukkah, or whatever, or even Shabbat, had more spirituality.
Okay, I guess we come back to Kara's question of how do we know and how can we define that and measure that. So maybe the whole question is all faith. Yes.
So I just I had an experience that with the community and one of these like new age Hasidic kind of people who are looking for spirituality in Israel. When I was doing a couple of bar mitzvahs, and I hired one of those people to help me out and he was watching the community, and he was telling me he saw guys sitting and praying, but everyone's just sitting down, and he put it like, I feel like they're doing everything to V, like to okay, check, we did it, we did it, and he said if this is the way I would have chosen to live my life, I would have left it. This is not the way I want to do it. But he was astounded that in the community, like, the people don't know what they're saying, but they're still sitting there, and they're coming, and they're doing, but it's like lost on them, and sort of like these new people, the people who are looking for it, they basically said, we're not going to do it because it was always done, and it was done for generations, and this is the way we do it. Like, a lot of times I hear, like, when we were trying to ask, could we speak at that ayat? Yeah, it's allowed, but we don't do it. If they heard those answers, they would have left Judaism totally. And they said, we have to revitalize it and make it fit for us so that we feel like it's meaningful, and we don't want to check it out or just do it because they did it or because it was always done or because that was the halacha. We want to give it more meaning. So going back to what you said, Eli, our grandparents, I feel, did things because they were more simple. I think they weren't. They didn't have all the information we had. I think the higher level is to have all the information, but have that community as well. Like, I feel
that innocence, that innocence, to be able to use the Hebrew word.
Like I could see that with my grandmother. It's because they weren't so sophisticated. Yeah, and they had it, and it was like something that they were brought up with, but they weren't exposed to the whole world, and we were exposed to what the younger people are exposed to. And how do you reach a place where you have that sophistication, but also that tmimut, that innocence, that allows you to say, I'm going to make it more meaningful for me, and even if it has to be done in a different way and change it and whatever, but I'm going to put more, or I'm not going to do it at all, or it's just is not worth doing.
So I would, in response to that, our community does not go in that direction.
Right.
They're not looking to revitalize.
Which is why this is happening in Israel.
They would rather stay,
right.
in fact, not leave. They will not leave.
Right.
But they'll be in shul every Shabbat morning, and they won't understand the word they're saying, and they'll go through it, and they'll come home, and they'll have a nice lunch with their family, and it's fine, and life continues.
And my Israeli assistants, when they see that, their jaw drops. They don't
get
it. They don't understand.
I have to share with you an anecdote that happened.
Right.
I'm saying Kaddish now.
And another, okay.
For my mom. Saying Kaddish now for my mom. So every Sunday at 6:45 at the Azrak's house, Victor Azrak. He's also saying Kaddish, the Azrak boys. So all the people, many people are saying Kaddish. Go out there and invite some people that they can answer Amen also. So if you have 20 or 30 people that are saying Kaddish, we all say Kaddish together, and Minyan is very, very nice. And then he invites a couple of people to answer Amen at the right time. So one of the people there tells, I hear him talking to another one. He was telling Elliot Tawil, not my brother, the other Elliot, and I won't say the name of the person, but he says, so I'm astounded. When I go to Minyan every morning, how many people are there that don't have to be there? And one sense it's beautiful. It is a kind of, I'm saying Kaddish, but there's a lot of people just there.
I think there's a lot of superstition in the community. I think if people don't do it, they'll feel like, voodoo will come.
Wait, no, I'm gonna.
But there is that.
Okay,
don't say no to that. That's very strong.
I was gonna say, on the flip side, I feel like we were just ranking on the men, or I was maybe just ranking on like what men do or whatever. But just to go back to the bar mitzvahs and the Israelis watching in on the outside, like they also see like the woman coming down to take pictures, and everyone's wearing really high heels. Everyone looks like they came out of Vogue, extremely uncomfortable, but stunning and beautiful, and taking pictures and literally bleeding at their feet because the shoes are so high, and the girls who are, these kind of girls are watching and saying, well, why did they do it? It doesn't look comfortable. No, but this is what we do, and this looks good, and it has nothing to do with superstition. It just has to do with
the way things are done.
The way things are, and it doesn't change.
There's also a very strong superstition that one in the community. Yeah, there is.
They have to keep up with the Joneses. They won't put, but with anything, they do all, if everyone's doing it, we all have to jump. That's how this community is.
You think it's just this community? I think it's
Okay, so let's give a little definition to what could be more spirituality or more. How can we, or if we want to, revitalize, and how do we define these things? First of all, in a large sense, we want to be more connected to Hashem. If you have to just give a broad definition, so that if one is doing something and not being connected to Hashem, that's not spirituality, even if he's learning Talmud. But in a sense, one could be completely not religious and learn Talmud, and then it's not a religious experiment, or learn Torah for that matter. You know that there's, I think it's South Korea. In South Korea, part of the curriculum in South Korea is to learn the Talmud. Right? Now, when they're studying the Talmud, they're doing this intellectual exercise as an ability to have flexibility of thinking. The Talmud is great for that. Right? It's really great for that. You have to take one line of thought and compare it to another, and then compare it back and forth. It really gets you, nimble intellectually. It's not a spiritual. Would not be called a spiritual experience. If one is learning Talmud as a means of connecting to our sages, or people who connected to Hashem, and thereby wanting to connect to Hashem, then it becomes a spiritual experience. Or whatever learning you do. If one is praying because that's what one does every day, without thinking about it or going through the motions, there's some benefit of that, that you have that your body is used to doing that, but there's there's a way of revitalizing that by turning the prayer into speaking to Hashem. And so if we had more spirituality, it's the feeling that we have that we're connected to our Creator, our Provider, the one that makes the whole world go. Hashem. That's the word that we use. Other things that go on when we serve our fellow man. Okay? We spoke last week about finding the opportunities to take the abundance that we're given and sharing that with people. When we do it in a way and we see it as a way of, this is what Hashem wants us to do, as a kind of a service, as a kind of, we're not in it for any benefit that we're getting. We're not in it for any kind of pat on the back or any type of recognition. But we're doing it because here Hashem gave me an abundance. I want to bring that out to other people that need it, and doing it as a service. That's spirituality. And when we do these things with a passion and occasionally an ecstasy of being able to have this opportunity, when we're aware of the things that we have and we just overflow with gratitude. Almost like the words of the Navi are coming back to me. How can I thank you, Hashem, for everything that you've given to me? We just overflow, and we don't have any. We can't give a sacrifice today, right? So then we say, okay, let me channel that desire, that gratitude, tremendous gratitude of all we have. We channel it into helping people, because that's what Hashem wants from us, right? Asot mishpat, avat chesed, vasnei alechet imenovecha. And let me channel that in, and that's when I do those things as part of connecting to Hashem. That's spirituality. I think the point that David brought up is true. We're much more surrounded with things that are grabbing our attention and that are giving us other thoughts and that are causing us to, the world we live in is very, very secular. Very, that's the United States. That's the way it is. And the media that we're exposed to is usually very secular. The people are very religious. And most people, you talk about the Middle America and most United, because they have a belief in God, they probably do some religious acts in the course of the day. The media doesn't always represent it that way, but I don't know, even simple and maybe mundane things, expression of spirituality. I don't know if you watch the soccer games. There was recently some very big games. I don't know. Did anyone see any, or even in football games? I don't know. People wearing all types of medallions and doing all types of religious gestures. No, I'm not talking about that's like a secular kind of ritual. We're talking about people who actually pray before a game, or it's there. It's there. In Israel, recently they did a study where 80% of Israelis, Jewish Israelis, do something on Shabbat, religious. 80%. And that's after decades and decades of an attempt to secularize Jews.
Something like what something?
Could it be kiddush, or lighting candles, or having a family meal, where doing something out of the ordinary on Shabbat. That's something out of the ordinary. It's part of what religious people do. I don't remember the exact wording of that, but it was a telling result that it's very much ingrained in people. So I think that like you wouldn't, in common parlance, you wouldn't speak, in business, the business associates that are non-Jewish, I would imagine you almost never talk about religion. Right? I don't know. People tell me, but it could be that the person we're dealing with is a religious person as well. Okay. So I think that we have people are searching for more meaning in their spiritual life, more meaning than was of old. I agree that there was a certain innocent, deep faith that existed in our parents, and they kept traditions and carried them on in our grandparents. And I don't think that's going to work for most of us today. And we're much more sophisticated, much more intellectual today, and we have to deal with the level where, and that's part of the way Hashem brings the world forward. Okay. Let's go on with the article. Page 177, the second paragraph on the page. כאמור, לדעתי השבר הפוסט-מודרני הוא שיפתח את הדרך לחידוש המיסטיקה. He sees the postmodern crisis as a way of leading towards a new mysticism. And this new mysticism he sees as bringing a new kind of vitality to Am Yisrael. I'm skipping a little bit. The same type of vitality that Rav Kook and his disciples wanted to bring to Yadut. Skipping to the last, and this is one of the signs of the redemption. So a new spirituality, new mysticism, that means a new seeking of the beyond the natural and normal, a new seeking of the transcendent, is what's going to be, for him, one of the signs, for Rav Kook, one of the signs of the Geulah, one of the signs of redemption. The last paragraph on the page. Ach mahi Geulah. What is redemption? It's a great question. We all speak about what is the Mashiach. I often ask people, what do you want to happen different in Mashiach? Maya Geulah. Let's read a little bit, then we'll talk. היא איננה סידור אחר, יעיל ככל האפשר של החומר. It's not just rearranging the furniture. It's not just rearranging the matter. Even as we make it in a much nicer arrangement. מפני שסידור כזה לא יביא לתכלית שהיא מעבר לו. Because just rearranging the present things that we have is not going to give this to a goal that's beyond. הגאולה היא שינוי של החומר עצמו. It is changing the substance itself. It's changing the reality. ייתכן שבשלב הבא השינויים בתולדות האנושות והעולם יהיו במישור הזה, מישור ההוויה. It could very well be that the next stage of development of humanity will be a change in existence and in reality. Explain what that means in a minute. זהו זיכוך הכלי ותיקונו. This is the purification and the preparing of the vessel of the physical world. אמנם כך נראה שהמהפכה הבאה של האנושות זו שתבוא אחרי המהפכה המדעית והטכנולוגית של המאה ה-20 זו מהפכה מנטלית. האנושות תחדש כישורים רוחניים ונפשיים שהיו לו מימים ימימה. הדבר כרוך בכל התופעות שהזכרתי קודם אשר יעצבו את אנשי העתיד בצורה שונה מזו העכשווית. He thinks that the next revolution, in the next step forward, or the next jump forward in humanity, after we finish the science, technological, and information age, is going to be a jump forward in the way we connect to one another. Not just communicate, but deeply understand one another. The way we seek each other's, the way we explain ourselves to one another and understand one another and try to function within a reality that's one of deep understanding of the different groups that make up our society. Almost like, I'm expanding a little bit on this point over here. You know, in a loving couple relationship, very often things don't have to be said between one another. There's such a deep understanding of what the other person needs and wants, and the desire of both parts to provide and to give one another. So it's like this depth of understanding that we have within our family units and within ourselves and our couples and with our husband, with our spouse. Imagine if this type of understanding existed amongst different groups within our society, where sensitivities and a desire to make different elements of the society work with one another, with understanding and with accepting of differences, that's like a kind of utopia. This could be a new stage of what redemption would look like. And we don't really think too much about what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. What is redemption? Where are we supposed to go with humanity? But if you had to, think about it. What do we want? What do we want when we say redemption or we say Mashiach? What are we looking for?
We're looking for peace.
So number one is we want peace defined as what?
Peace defined as, I would right now say, no wars, no animosity, no anti-Semitism, respect for each other.
Okay, so peace, having no wars, is something that we from our state that we're in now, there's a lot of wars going on in the world, and we're very concerned about the war between Israel and Hamas, but there's a lot of wars going on. So peace, the next, the song "The Bear Went Over the Mountain," right? So the next mountain we see is just a peace. But if we have to say, what is the peace for? Well, let's say now we have peace. Well, what do we do with that? Then what's life about? You know what I'm saying? It's like having nothing bothering us. Okay? Let's say when a person has a cold and he's coughing and he's congested and all that, right? What do you want? Just get me out of I don't want to have a cold anymore, right? But then what? So the peace is like something bothering humanity. War bothering humanity. And then let's say we have no more wars, no more bloodshed. We're finished with that. Okay? Now what?
And now what? Helping each other to produce to one's full capacity. Each country and each person. With respect and dignity.
Wonderful. So here we have a vision forward of what utopia might look like, where the world is designed, and to all its aspects, from the youngest child to the oldest senior, right, is designed that in every part of one's life we bring out our full potential of, if you will, God-given potential, right, and bring it out to the world.
And help the people around us do that same thing. Help other people actualize themselves as well.
Right.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Help people what?
Help other people actualize themselves, bring that out in the world. Okay. Would anyone sign up to that vision of utopia? You like that? Okay. What's stopping us from doing it now?
Tribalism.
First of all, many of us do it. Okay. Well, of course, with our children and with our spouses and with the people we work with, right? But if we think about what is Mashiach going to be, the whole world has a desire to bring out the best in people. So now, everyone in their own circle, starting from within the family, and spreading out to within the community and within the thing, bring out the best in people. So really, and this is, we say, everyone love one another. It sounds very hippie-ish and that. But when you say love someone, right, it means find the beauty in every person around you and see what, if you're in contact with that person, Hashem puts you in contact with that person for a reason. And let's say it's very hard to be in contact with that person at that particular point in time. So get over it and see what you're going to bring, how you're going to bring it out. I'm speaking from my experience as a principal and as a teacher. I might have said this last week, I don't remember, but it's something I believe very strongly, so it comes up a lot. Every difficult student that I have, Hashem sent me that I should find a way to bring out the best of them. Hashem sent me the child, and by the way, every difficult teacher I have, and there are those as well, is there for me to improve myself, to find the spark, the goodness, the potential of that person, and then if I'm not able to do it, the problem is not with them. I'm dropping the ball. I'm dropping the ball. And it's very easy to sometimes pick up your hand and say, well, there's nothing I can do with this kid or with this teacher. Very easy. When you say that, you're not doing the work. I'm thinking about myself. I'm not doing the work to find out what is that work. We had a kid this year. Tell me if I told, I might have told him nothing. I had a kid this year, a young girl, second grader. second grader, very slight built, very petite. Violent, cursing, hitting, putting down people, going through a divorce, parents going through a divorce. And then I have a first year teacher, great teacher, but first year, dealing with this student. She comes to me about 2 months. And she says, Rabbi Tawil, get this kid out of my class. It's ruining my whole class. Right? And my first reaction is, I have to help this teacher. I have to help her. This is like cruelty to have this kid in the teacher's class. I should put her in the parallel class that I have. Then I thought about it more. No, we're not.
Slept on it.
What's that?
You slept
on it. Well, slept on it for a week or two. It's like a really thinking. I tried to analyze what is going wrong here. What's happening? Obviously, this young girl, is torn by this divorce. Parents are not getting along with one another. What does she need? What is she crying out for? When you pose the question that way, it almost jumps right out of you. She needs to be loved and cared for. She has to be over. We have to give her over. So I put a full court press on this girl. I got every person in the school, from the guard at the gate to the maintenance person in the school, to the Benot Sharut, the young teenagers that are helping out in the school, to the secretary, of course to the teachers. We're having Operation, her name is Dikla, Operation Dikla. We're just going to give her a lot of love, a lot of individualized attention, and we did that for 2 months. And there was a marked change in the group. Of course, she still had her balance once in a while, much less frequently. Right? And I was ready to give up on this girl. And to get, okay, let's transfer out of the school, let's transfer out of the home. I said, no, we're not doing it. And I told the teacher, we are not transferring out. Hashem gave us this girl, that we should bring out the best in her. And when I told it to the teacher, she saw it really in a different way. This is Hashem's challenge to us. So by trying to find the best in the people around us and bring that out to all the people around us, sometimes it takes a lot of deep understanding, a lot of dealing with a lot of stuff that we don't want to deal, we don't like to deal with, but that's our challenge. I'm going to mention something now, and maybe we'll talk about it another time. It's a theory that I have, and it has to do with the state of Israel and being put together with Hamas. If we take the same idea over to our national level, we're put together with the Arabs, the Palestinian Arabs. Hashem is wanting us to find some way of dealing with them in a way that brings out their best as well. Okay? That for another time, we can go on that. Okay. We'll see who wins.
Right.
Okay. There's one more. Think about it. We'll finish at 10 o'clock. One more idea. The next sentence, the next chapter, on page 178. Yikol Makol, in any event, the future society of redemption will be Chevra Raka, a soft society. Lo Chevra Kasha, not a hard society.
Rigid.
What's that?
Rigid. Kasha, I would say rigid.
Chevra שערכיה יהיו ענווה, השפלות והרכות, פסיביות פתוחה הנכונה לקלוט. It'll be a society whose values are humility, shiflut, even self-effacement, rakut, softness, an open passivity that's ready to receive. V'lo chevra shtaltanit v'hesegit, and not a dominating and hesegit, a success striving society. בקיצור, תהיה זו חברה נשית, In short, it'll be a woman's kind of society. וזה המובן של הפסוקים המדברים על כך שלעתיד לבוא יהיה אור הלבנה כאור החמה ושנקבה תסובב גבר. The kind of society that we're open to understanding one another, and a society that has humility as one of its values, and that it's passivity and an open receptiveness. And imagine a society that has humility as its value. Right? Imagine a society that it's not about how much you show, but how much you don't, how much you keep to yourself. Now here's where he's getting into Kabbalistic terms, and it's I don't think he's talking about. I mean, he's talking also about women, the women's type of society, but these words are very laden with Kabbalistic ideas, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to look a little bit next time, and that has to do with the Sefirot and the Malchut, and it's really, he's not originating these things. Things found in Chabad, that where the last Rebbe of Chabad, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, was very much into calling this age a woman's age. A woman's age. He was not a feminist in the classic sense of the term of there should be equality. He said that there's a need for women to bring out their unique approach to life and to have that affect our society more and more, and that he sees as not just as part of the redemption, but as bringing the main redemption of the world. And these ideas that Rav Shagar is alluding to over here, it's very interesting. I mean, I was astounded to see the degree that he goes to when I first read this material. That I didn't know that. You know, he lived next to us in Brooklyn. I mean, it was completely, since it was like a world away, because we were not exposed to it. He was a very revolutionary thinker, and especially in his approach towards women. And he sees the woman learning and women being more involved in leadership positions in society as the main path to redemption of the world. Rav Shagar is referring to it here, that a society that's receptive, that's tolerant, that's understanding, that's willing to listen to the other, humble, without the male striving and achieving. Right? That achievement is not the primary goal of the redemptive society according to Rav Shagar. It's an idea that I want to look at more next week. Next week we're going to Bezrat Hashem, if there's a next week. I want to start. Maybe we'll get into the women's thing. Maybe we'll hold it for another. I want to already start learning Likutei Moharan, Rabbi Nachman, with Rav Shagar's interpretation, and with a little bit of an exposure to Rabbi Nachman, and what things that I found in it that were very inspiring. And with Rav Shagar's interpretation, you'll see that it's very different than the people jumping around, so not to denigrate them. It's a different approach, and that's what I'd like to also share with you. So, thank you, everyone.
Next week, if all goes well, we'll be at Michael and Celeste's house, which is on